All right, picture this, man. Imagine you're a footballer at the top of your game. You've got the skills, the confidence, the highlight reels, and suddenly you get thrown into a brand new league. And it's like walking into a fight gym where everyone's speaking a different language. Some guys are trying to knock your head off with sheer power. Others are dancing around you with insane skill. And some are trapping you in a chess match you didn't even realize you were playing. And the question is, which one of these battlegrounds is the hardest to survive in? Is it the Premier League with its chaos and brutality, La Liga with its artistry and magic, or Serie A with its tactical warfare? Because that's not just a question about football, that's a question about adaptability, about who you are when the heat's turned all the way up. And that's the ride we're about to take. You stick with me through this, and by the end, you're going to see these leagues in a way you've never thought about before. All right, so when you're talking about which league is the hardest, man, you can't just throw names around like EPL, La Liga, or Serie A without breaking down the core DNA of what makes them different, because every single one of those leagues is almost like stepping into a completely different martial art, right? Like you're not just fighting the same fight in a different ring, you're fighting a whole new discipline. So when you look at the Premier League, it's this absolute monster of physicality. Like you're going 90 miles an hour from the first whistle. Everybody's pressing, everybody's sprinting, the tackles are flying, and it's cold, it's wet. You're getting smashed around by guys who are 6'3", built like linebackers, and you have to keep moving because the game doesn't stop. There's no breathing room. So the EPL is almost like a test of raw toughness and endurance. Can you take the hits and still make magic happen? Now contrast that with La Liga. And you're suddenly in a different universe because in Spain, it's all about skill and artistry. You've got these magicians with the ball, guys who can trap it like it's glued to their boots. They're playing tiki-taka, short passes, constant movement. The pressure isn't about someone smashing you with their shoulder. It's about someone embarrassing you technically, like you're on the pitch with wizards. And if you're not sharp, if you don't have that insane first touch and vision, you're done. And then you go to Syria and it's like a chess match with gladiators. It's tactical warfare. Every team is drilled like an army. The defenders are some of the smartest you'll ever face. They're reading your runs, closing your angles, double teaming at just the right time. It's methodical, patient. Sometimes it feels slower, but underneath that pace, there's this razor sharp intensity where one mistake will cost you the game. So you've got three completely different beasts, one where physicality and chaos rule, one where artistry and skill dominate, and one where tactical discipline is everything. And when people argue about which is hardest, it's almost like asking which fight is tougher, getting into a street brawl with some monster who's trying to knock your head off, stepping into a ring with a slick boxer who's faster and more technical than you, or trying to outthink a grandmaster in a game of high-stakes chess because each one demands something brutal from you, and only the absolute best can survive across all. So, if you really want to get into what separates these leagues, man, you've got to talk about pace and environment because that's where the whole vibe of the game changes. Like you put a player in the Premier League and suddenly it feels like you're strapped into a roller coaster that doesn't stop. The ball is flying end to end. The pressing is relentless. You can't take two touches without someone crashing into you. And the environment adds gasoline to that fire because those English stadiums are loud. It's raining. The crowd is on your back screaming for you to get up. You can feel the pressure on your skin. And that speed doesn't let you think. You've got to act instinctively or you're toast. Then you compare that with La Liga. And the tempo has a totally different rhythm. It's slower in bursts, but sharper in detail. Like instead of constant sprinting, it's more about control, possession, breaking you down with passes that feel surgical. And the environment in Spain reflects that. The fans want to see beauty. They expect style. They don't just want a goal. They want it done with flair. So the pace there allows these little pockets of creativity, moments of pure artistry where a guy pulls off a nutmeg and the whole stadium gasps. And then there's Serie A, that's a different animal altogether. Because the pace feels slower on the surface, but that's deceptive. It's not that players are moving less. It's that every single movement is calculated like a tactical war zone, and the environment there is almost intimidating. Italian ultras are ruthless. The pressure is insane. It's like you're being watched by thousands of generals who will judge you on whether you stuck to the plan or not. So the game slows down in a way that forces you to think 3 steps ahead. It's patience, structure, and mental resilience. And if you slip, if you lose concentration, you're punished instantly. So what you've really got are 3 environments testing 3 different parts of a footballer's soul. One where you're sprinting nonstop in chaos like your lungs are on fire. One where you're forced to show your pure skill in front of fans who demand elegance. and one where you're playing inside a giant chessboard with people screaming at you like your life depends on it. And that's why when people argue which league is toughest, you can't just pick one, because surviving in those different environments is like trying to survive in three totally different worlds, each one brutal in its own way. When you really start digging into why people debate which league is the hardest, you've got to look at the way talent is spread across the globe, because that's a massive factor that shapes the whole identity of these leagues. Like the Premier League is just this insane melting pot, man. You've got Brazilians, Africans, Eastern Europeans, South Americans, everyone's there. It's like a UFC card stacked with fighters from every discipline. That mix makes the games wild because you're facing different styles every single week. One weekend you're going against a bulldozer of a striker who just wants to outmuscle you, and the next you're chasing some little magician who moves like water. So the EPL becomes this chaotic international battleground where adaptability is everything. Then you shift to La Liga and it feels different, because while they still attract talent, the core of it has always been rooted in Spanish football culture. Guys train from birth in technical master, and they mix in South American flair, especially from Argentina and Brazil. So you end up with this league that's like a showcase of artistry, the cream of the crop when it comes to creative midfielders and silky forward. And it's less about having every single type of fighter in the ring and more about refining one deadly style of combat until it's damn near untouchable. Then you look at Serie A, and the talent distribution there historically leaned toward defenders, tacticians, and these insanely smart midfielders. Like Italy was the factory for the most disciplined and intelligent players on the planet. And they mixed in some of the biggest global stars too. But the identity stayed rooted in that tactical DNA. So while the league might not always have had the biggest cluster of flashy dribblers or the fastest sprinters, it was stacked with warriors who could shut those guys down. And the environment made sure every international player coming in had to adapt to that chessboard mentality. So the bigger picture here is you've got three ecosystems: one where the whole planet is funneled into this high-speed collision in England, one where Spain cultivates skill and flair and sprinkles in global artists to amplify it, and one where Italy filters everything through discipline and defense and makes even the biggest global superstars bend to their tactical demands. And that distribution of talent makes the debate so tricky, because what does hardest even mean when one league is testing you against every style imaginable? One is testing whether you can swim with the best artists in the world, and one is testing whether you can even survive against some of the most ruthless tacticians football has ever seen. If you're trying to really get into the psychology of what makes each league a nightmare in its own way, you can't ignore the fan pressure and the atmosphere, because that's the invisible weight crushing you every time you step on the pitch. Like in England, the stadiums are these tight, close, almost claustrophobic arenas where the fans are right on top of you. They're loud, they're brutal, and they don't let up. You misplace one pass and 30,000 people are groaning in unison. You're a striker on a goal drought, and you can literally feel that frustration crawling down your spine. And when it's cold and wet in some random away ground on a Tuesday night, that atmosphere makes the whole Premier League feel like a grindhouse test of mental toughness. Then you look at Spain, and the vibe is different but no less intense, because the fans there don't just want you to win, they want you to perform with style. They want elegance, artistry. They want to see the game as entertainment. So if you're just grinding out ugly 1-0 wins, they'll turn on you, they'll whistle at you, even if you're top of the table, because the culture demands beauty. And that kind of pressure is terrifying for players who aren't naturally flashy. It's like playing guitar in front of an audience that boos you unless you shred like Hendrix. And then you flip it to Italy, and the atmosphere there is borderline gladiatorial, man. The ultras are insane. They're relentless. They've got banners, flares, they live and die with every pass, and the expectation isn't just about winning or playing pretty, it's about fighting for the shirt, it's about tactical obedience. And if you mess up, if you don't stick to the plan, you're not just getting criticized by pundits, you're getting called out by entire sections of hardcore fans who will let you know exactly how they feel. The stadiums there feel like you're stepping into a cauldron. The noise is deafening, the hostility toward the opponent is primal. And even for the home players, that weight can crush you if you don't have the mental armor to handle it. So when you're talking about hardest leagues, that fan factor is massive, because in the EPL you're constantly under the microscope of fans who demand effort and grit every single second. In La Liga, you're judged on your ability to play like an artist, and in Serie A, you're judged like a soldier being evaluated for discipline in battle. And surviving that psychological intensity is just as brutal as surviving the tackles, the tactics, or the skill level. Here's the thing, man. When people argue about which league is the hardest, what they're really circling around without saying it is this idea of adaptability. Because the truth is, you can be a superstar in one league and look completely average in another, and that's the ultimate test. Like, take the Premier League, for example. It's chaos, it's physical, it's fast, and if you're not built for that kind of intensity, you're going to get eaten alive. We've seen technically brilliant players who lit up La Liga or Serie A come to England, and suddenly they look like they're running through mud because they can't handle the pace and the constant pressure. But then flip it, and you've got these big, strong, powerful athletes who dominate they go to Spain and suddenly they're exposed because they don't have the technical finesse to keep up with that level of skill. And then Serie A throws a whole new curveball at you because it's not about how fast you run or how pretty your dribbles. It's about whether you can play within a system, follow tactical instructions, stay patient for 90 minutes, and not lose your head when defenders are basically predicting your every move before you even make it. So adaptability becomes this crazy filter that separates the truly world-class players from the ones who are just comfortable in a certain environment. Like Cristiano Ronaldo, he thrived in England, then Spain, then Italy. That's why people talk about him like he's on another level, because he passed the adaptability test across 3 different ecosystems. But for every guy like him, there are 10 others who tried and failed. And that's why you can't just look at stats or trophy. You have to ask yourself, can this guy take his game and mold it to a completely different culture, different speed, different atmosphere? Because the hardest part isn't just playing, it's adjusting, it's rewiring your brain and body to survive in that new environment. And that's what makes this whole debate so fun, because the hardest league might just be whichever one exposes your weakness the fastest. And if you can adapt and thrive in all 3, then you're not just a good player, you're a monster. One of the rare few who can survive anywhere. So at the end of the day, man, when you try to crown one league as the hardest, it's kind of like trying to say which fight discipline is the toughest. Are you talking about stepping into a cage with a wrestler who's going to ragdoll you, a striker who's going to pick you apart with precision, or a jiu-jitsu wizard who's going to choke you out before you even know what happened? Because that's what these leagues are. The Premier League is this insane gauntlet of speed and physicality. La Liga is like stepping into a dojo of pure technical assassins. And Serie A is like being dropped into a battlefield of generals who are 10 moves ahead of you. And the truth is, there's no single right answer. It all depends on what you value, what kind of player you are, and whether you can adapt and survive. And that's what makes football so damn beautiful, because greatness isn't just about skill or strength or tactics. It's about thriving no matter where you're thrown, proving you can handle the storm in England, the artistry in Spain, and the chess match in Italy. And if you can do that, then you're not just a player, you're a legend. So good luck to anybody chasing that path. Respect to everyone who's ever stepped into those arenas. And thank you for riding through this conversation with me, because this game, this debate, it's never ending, and that's what makes it so fun.